The D in DACA means deferred, which is postpone action. So therefore, this isn't like a permanent legal status. So I will ditto the previous commentators. Yield.
Good morning, Madam Chair and Committee. My name is Lynn Chapman, and I'm State Vice President of Nevada Families for Freedom. Federal law, Title 8, Chapter 14, Section 1623 states, quote, an alien who is not lawfully present in the United States shall not be eligible on the basis of residence within the state for any post-secondary education benefit unless a citizen or national of the United States is eligible for such a benefit in no less an amount, duration, and scope without regard to whether the citizen or national is such a resident, unquote. Excuse me. There was no misunderstanding about what this law meant when Congress passed it or when President Clinton signed it in 1996. Conference Report 104828 stated, quote, this section provides that illegal aliens are not eligible for in-state tuition rates at public institutions of higher education, unquote. FAIR states, quote, the issue is important to U.S. citizens, legal immigrants, and permanent residents because an out-of-state tuition is substantial. During the 2019-2020 academic year, the average in-state tuition rate for four-year public institutions in the U.S. was $10,440 per year, while the average out-of-state tuition was $26,820. That is a difference of approximately $16,400, which is cost prohibitive to many applicants, unquote. There is a negative impact to American students if this bill is passed. Many Americans, low to middle incomers, also would like to attend college, and they should have the precedence over foreign nationals who are in our country illegally. Also remember, college entrance slots are limited, and this bill could provide college access to illegals at the risk of excluding students who are in this country legally. Golden Door Scholarships, a 501c3 organization, quote, provides large college scholarships, career and fellowship support, mentorships, and community building opportunities for undocumented students, unquote. This is just one of the many organizations that are available to help pay for illegals to attend our colleges and pay out-of-state tuition. Vote no on AB 226. Thank you.
Casey Roger for the record. The irony of having this conversation, we have laws, we have rules, we have reasons for keeping it taxpayers who live, yes, some of them pay taxes. Okay, once they become illegal, fine. Once they become legal, fine. But while you're illegal, the answer is no. And I will echo of Miss Lynn Chapman. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Lisa Partee, spelled P as in Paul, A-R-T as in Tom, E-E. To have we the people pay for tuition for people invading our country illegally is unconscionable. You have proposed more taxes on the citizens of Nevada for illegals than ever in our history, and this is America Last legislation that cannot be put through. We have New York kicking veterans and homeless out of housing and putting them on the street to house illegals. You are essentially doing the same thing, prioritizing illegals over people who would love to attend college but cannot afford to do so. The cost of college has increased 169% since 1980, and we don't need to award people breaking our laws by being here illegally free college so they can get ahead of those who are citizens of our countries. If these are DACA kids, then they live and work here like the rest of us and can contribute to their education. And just like my daughter had to do, can apply for grants and scholarships like generations before them. We've just heard people questioning the ability to sustain raises for state employees who, as was stated, carried the state on their backs through 2 financial downturns. This is not equitable. It's not fair to the citizens of Nevada. I second Lynn Chapman's testimony, and citizens should have preference over people who are here illegally. How about DACA and others actually try and obtain citizenship before asking for free benefits? Could you please discuss encouraging those here illegally to come into the front door, apply for citizenship, tell us that they really want to be Americans and stand with our flag? But until then, the flags, which I note are never in the the hearing rooms at legislature, which is very disturbing to me. No on AB 22. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next caller.
I will ditto all the comments. We need to promote good family structure. Birth rates are below replacement level. And by the way, I think I'm the first guy in the testimony out of all the other callers. Interesting. Yield. Despite some issues, I really did enjoy the session. Thank you so much for everything. And I have to also point out, I did enjoy the town hall last Saturday with Ruben de Silva, Commissioner Sickerbloom, Claire Thomas, Venetia Considine. Had a great productive time. You know, it makes me think that a lot of people who have concerns about this state, hardly any of them showed up. My goodness. But one thing I wanted to touch on was the fact that there's a lot of people out there who are wishing to go to an annual session. I do support that kind of idea, unless if we cap the number of bills to just do 300 to 400 every session. I really would appreciate if we can, put a floor so that way we have more time to look at the bills, because there's a lot of even good bills that get passed that I actually miss and don't really address my opinions about what's going on. So, I think that I don't like this Mission Impossible style where, trying to shove all the bills down, limited time, limited testimony. I really don't see how this is working well. So we can consider alternatives, and please pass on the comments to Senator Spearman, who talked about this.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Appreciate
and just so you know, that everybody isn't in Las Vegas every weekend. So sometimes some people aren't there because they are here in meetings, which we were on Saturday.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here. Thank you, Chair Down-to-Arrow-Loop, for hearing this bill. The fiscal notes, for the record, my name is Brooke Malath. I've been here many, many times before advocating for the health and welfare of the transgender population in Nevada. I have also been for 20 years doing business analysis and financial projections for healthcare. And I will suggest that the small financial note is sort of a worst case scenario. I really expect it to be much, much less. But it's really important for you to understand that this fact of covering medically necessary treatment, which is expanding a few services on what Medicaid already does, is because it, to exclude those types of services is discriminatory. What's the cost of discrimination, you say? Because that's the other part of the equation we have to look at. The state of Wisconsin was sued successfully in the case of Flack v. Wisconsin and had to end up covering all of the procedures and pay a $2 million penalty. So we can pay a few $100,000 in the budget, or we can pay a huge amount of penalty. That's what it comes down to. We also have precedent in this state, as was heard in the policy committee, where an individual covered by our own PEB plan filed a complaint because of coverage of some of these procedures, and ended up having the PEB plan covering all of these procedures for everybody, and they had to pay a penalty of $45,000 on top of that, which is about the same price as what the procedure cost to begin with. So do you want to pay once, or do you want to pay triple to quadruple? Covering, approving this financial note means you only have to pay it once. It's the prudent and fiscally conservative thing to do, and I thank you for your vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You're all working very hard. My name is Janine Hansen. I'm the state president of Nevada Families for Freedom. We have concerns about this bill. In the fiscal notes, it shows nearly $5 million as a cost to taxpayers. I don't know if that's been changed, but it isn't changed online. So we're concerned about taxpayers paying for this kind of surgery. We're also concerned about the fact that this does not include, and which is discriminatory, a religious exemption for medical providers or small businesses that may have religious objections to providing treatment or insurance for gender dysphoria treatment and sex change surgery. I've expressed this many times over the years in this building that those with religious convictions will be discriminated against. Another issue, I think, is that every time we increase the things that we're paying for with taxes as an ongoing situation, because this is going to be ongoing, it's not going to be for the next 2 years, that we continue to place fiscal burdens on our taxpayers. And I don't know if you're aware, but the Institute for Policy Innovation has stated that federal, state, local taxes, and hidden taxes are equal a person's annual consumption spending of 56%. That's more than they spend on housing, food, clothing, transportation, education, and health care. So the more we burden the taxpayers, the less they're able to take care of themselves with every single thing that we do. Chris Hyde, the director of IRF, said there is a huge uncertainty over whether changing someone's sex is good or a bad thing. While no great care is taken to ensure the appropriate patients undergo gender reassignment, there is great care. There is still a large number of people who have surgery but remain traumatized, often to the point of committing suicide. This is still to some degree not resolved within the medical community. This was a review of more than 100 international medical studies of post-operative transsexuals by the University of Birmingham.
And the IAP is concerned about taxpayer money. $5 million is a lot of money. American hospitals have large financial incentives to carry out gender reassignment procedures. In the United States, the sex reassignment surgery market is set to reach a market value of more than $1.5 billion by 2026. Some operations cost up to $53,700. Performing 50 of these a year brings in $2.7 million. We are really very concerned about this because we're talking about $5 million today, but how much will it be tomorrow? We have to think about the taxpayers and what they're already paying for, and surgeries shouldn't be one of the things. And so please vote no. Thank you.
QUINN. I oppose SB 163, which mandates insurance companies and Medicaid paid for by taxpayers to pay for gender dysphoria treatments and sexual surgery. This bill does not include a religious exemption for medical providers or small businesses that may have religious objections to providing treatment or insurance for gender dysphoria treatment and surgery. Many young people later regret the life-changing decision to hormonally and surgically alter their bodies, rendering them sterile. Also, as taxpayers, we object to having to use our tax dollars for this. This is more of a sociology thing, not a biology thing. No matter what happens to anyone, we still have our same chromosomal makeup. This is very damaging political ideology. I have sat in live legislative hearings, watched various committee work sessions, floor sessions, read and listened to multiple bills and resolutions this 82nd legislative session. Bills and resolutions bent on the intentional destruction of the traditional family unit and adding heavy mental loads to our children. I am disgusted at the legislative push to erase humanity, emasculate men, erase women, dismember children in or out of the womb, obliterate the bond of the family, and erase our U.S. constitutional freedoms unless it suits your agenda. All of this is being done on the altar of inclusivity and economic social governance. Our children do not belong to the government or any special interest groups advocating infringement on the parent-child relationship. Legislators, you are elected officials voted by your district constituents. Respect all parents' rights to protect and be the authority for their children. Do not just select, not just a select faction or sect. Children do not and will never belong to the government. This is not a political party thing. It's a they are not your children thing. Respectfully, I ask Nevadan parents and parents everywhere, when did you surrender your children to the government? You are the rightful authority for your children. Do not allow the government or any special interest group to take away your God-given constitutional parental rights or put your children in harm's way. Our children depend on us as parents to serve and protect them. They are our future. To the billions of loving parents all over this planet, I say, stand up for all children. Make your actions, not just your words, clearly say to anyone or anything attempting to harm children, stop. Keep your hands off our children. Thank you.
My name is Susan Proffitt, Proffitt, and I'm the Vice President of the Nevada Republican Club. I am really kind of surprised to see this bill continuing when you are not even looking at the more critical bills that we need for education and elections. Here you want to raise our taxes and have us pay for gender changing surgeries and services that are not warranted, and you don't even want us to know about it when it's our underage children. This is against the Constitution, as a lot of the bills that I have seen come across our desk from you recently, and I'm shocked. And I just want to ask you, have you decided to wage war against your constituents? I'm serious. This is just egregious, what you all are trying to do to the families. You're destroying the families. I would like to ditto the previous speakers regarding 406. And I'd also like to bring it to your attention that there were several of us waiting to speak to oppose SB 240, and you said there wasn't anybody on the phone lines, yet we were waiting to speak. And I'm just going to tell you, the reason why I oppose both of these bills is because it carves out a special group of people. And that set of people, depending on their sexual preference, you know, any one of us could qualify by saying we were bisexual for this. So
ma'am, we are talking, ma'am.
I understand that low income and
Ma'am, I apologize that you didn't get to speak earlier, but we are on Senate Bill 240 and 246. These have nothing to do with anyone's sexual...
Well, 246 I oppose, and I oppose 240.
Okay, thank you very much, and I apologize again that you didn't get on the phone line. Would you state your name for the record?
And I would like to ask you all, if you would please consider the oath you took for office. I am looking at these bills, and you are often shoving these through to the Senate for a vote when over 85% of your constituents, and in some cases 95 and more, are asking you and begging you not to, including the lady who just called in. I would also like you to please show Governor Lombardo some respect by approving his AB 400 and bringing his parental choice for education to Nevada so that we can improve our school systems, so that we can attract good doctors and improve our medical infrastructure. I would also like you to pay attention to your constituents when they beg you to pass Governor Lombardo's voter ID bill, which has yet to be brought to the floor for a vote. So please show him some respect and respect your constituents. I would really appreciate that, and I'm sure they would too. And thank you for your service. I do appreciate those of you that are fighting for us tooth and nail. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I yield my time.
Casey Rogers for the record. Here we go again with the under 17. Again, taking the rights away from parents that make the best decisions for their children. Your bill hits at kids 17 and under while their brains are still developing, not old enough to die in war, buy alcohol or cigarettes, but old enough to permanently maim themselves. All the while using psychologists, psychiatrists, and physicians as political pawns to this scheme to contribute to taking away of parental rights. Once you let bills like this pass, you start to normalize dysphoric ideology, normalizing many things like pedophilia, normalizing maiming and changing human beings, altering them. The question is why? And why are children at the forefront of this agenda? Actually, you're trying to normalize a transhumanist agenda. Do you even know what that word means? This bill is more than everything aforementioned. People who want bills like this have a nefarious intent to fool the masses into the future they believe in. Least we forget who these sociopaths are working in our legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Alita Benson, Executive Director of the Nevada Republican Party, testifying in opposition to SB 163 on behalf of the Nevada Republican Party. The 2010 Affordable Care Act roughly quadrupled health insurance premiums, primarily through elimination of medical underwriting and by forcing consumers to purchase coverage they'll never need. For example, the Affordable Care Act famously requires maternity coverage, even for policies sold to men. Insurance professionals saw firsthand the financial devastation caused by the Affordable Care Act. SB 163 continues this destructive path by forcing 100% of consumers to pay for coverage that only a small fraction of 1% of them will ever need. The fifth version of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders estimates that up to 0.014% of males and 0.003% of females will be diagnosed with gender dysphoria. Worse, SB 163 mandates that Medicaid will cover surgical treatment of gender dysphoria. There is no reason that Nevada taxpayers should be picking up the tab for unproven cosmetic treatments. However, the most disturbing feature of SB 163 is that it enables the exploitation of minors by the medical and education industries. This bill allows children to obtain permanent surgical procedures paid for by our tax dollars and does not require any parental notification. The only guidance needed for these children to permanently alter their bodies comes from those who profit from the procedures. Although there is disagreement in the medical field about the benefits and dangers of gender reassignment as a treatment for gender dysphoria, if consenting adults want to opt for the treatments described in 163 on their own dime, that's their call. They have the maturity and ability to properly consider the risks and benefits. But it is unconscionable that we would encourage permanent mutilation of children, particularly without parental notification and guidance. This bill allows children to make permanent decisions with lifelong consequences. Please protect health insurance consumers, Nevada taxpayers, and vulnerable children. Please vote no on SB 163. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Katie Banuelos. That's Banuelos. I'm here representing the Libertarian Party of Nevada. We strongly oppose this bill as it will require all Nevadans to fund dubious and unethical medical practices. This bill requires that insurers cover pharmaceutical and surgical interventions for minors as a treatment for mental health disorder. And these interventions are not safe or reversible, no matter what activists and financially interested professionals may claim. Dr. Stephen Levine is an expert. He sits on the Cochrane Review Committee that's currently evaluating the totality of the literature on this issue. He was also an early member of WPATH and helped draft an earlier version of their standards of care. He states that while children with gender dysphoria do report more suicidal thoughts, there's no evidence that they act on those feelings at a higher rate than other children. He also notes that without these interventions, the vast majority of students or children will desist, meaning their body discomfort will resolve. On the other hand, the evidence suggests that social transition and affirmative care sharply increase the rate of persistence. Almost all children who are given puberty blockers will later take hormones and have surgery. Adults who identify as transgender do have a very high suicide rate, but this is not impacted by whether they were able to transition early. Describing these interventions as life-saving care is completely erroneous, does not comport with reality. These are experimental treatments, and all over Europe, we're seeing nations that previously allowed minor transition to change their laws and prohibit it based on mounting evidence that it is not helpful in the long run. The people who push for this and specialize in it are ideologues. They believe that gender is somehow unrelated to the physical body. It is that you can be non-binary, fluid, and changeable to the point where the term gender means little more than feelings. Okay, simultaneously, they state that little children are capable of knowing a true gender that differs from their natal sex with such certainty that we should permanently alter their bodies and minds with drugs and surgeries. This is an incoherent position. It's not grounded in biological reality or anything we know about child development. Adults can do what they like with their own bodies. They should pay for it themselves. Children are incapable of consenting to procedures of this magnitude. Furthermore, there is no parental right to medically abuse a child. It is unacceptable to force all Nevadans who pay premiums into financing this. Please take a stand for reality and vote no on SB 163. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa Partee. It's spelled P as in Paul, A-R-T as in Tom, E-E. I vehemently oppose this bill. Any medical professional who has religious beliefs should be able to opt out of these treatments. And children shouldn't be exposed to these surgeries until they're old enough to know if it's truly what they want and they're of age to make that decision. A prior hearing indicated that no one under 18 would have these treatments, but hormone blockers have to be utilized prior to puberty. And this bill allows kids to have procedures without parental consent. So that testimony was incorrect and untruthful. This is a medical industrial complex money-making machine. Why on earth should taxpayers pay for this? Picking winners and losers for free elective surgeries and treatment is never a good idea. We are overtaxed, overburdened, and really over this whole push to get people to change their sex from that which they were born with. That's a personal choice and decision and journey that we should not have to pay for. These are not medically necessary treatments or procedures. These are elective procedures. Cancer, on the other hand, is not a choice. So if you feel we need to pay for surgeries, how about cancer surgeries that cause many people to go bankrupt in their lifetimes? This is offensive and ridiculous. I would like breast enhancements. If my insurance company doesn't choose to cover these because they're not medically necessary, then I just have to figure it out. But I wouldn't dream of asking other people to pay for procedures I choose to undergo. And I don't appreciate the pay it once or pay it more in penalties idea either. This is not something taxpayers should have to pay for. This is not the lesser of those two evils, and I echo all prior opposition testimony. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Lorena Cardenas. That's LORENACARDENAS. To all the legislators, both on the right and the left side of the aisle, right here, right now, you have the opportunity to take control of a situation that has gotten out of hand. And but what I mean by that is that you're witnessing a very destructive social contagion that is affecting our youth. And by allowing people to get, I know Melanie Sheevel said and claimed that SB 163 wasn't giving transsexuals state-funded or taxpayer-funded surgeries. It was just it was equity. There's that word again, and making them just have health care as accessible to anyone else. But that's a lie, because they can actually use our tax-paying health insurance that they use to get these surgeries done. And I mean, these surgeries lead to a lifelong state of needing medication. And if you go on Instagram and Facebook and you look up on My Children's Advocate, you'll see testimonies of teenagers regretting this. And there's also another website called transitionjustice.org, where you'll see that it's not a lie. People that get these surgeries and they mutilate their bodies can no longer ever reverse the damage that's been done to their body, and they're suffering. And you have a real chance of stopping and slowing this down, because the way it's progressing, it's leaving a trail of mutilated children in its wake. I also had a personal experience there at Grand Sawyer when I had a man in the restroom when I walked in, and it was very, very intimidating. He was towering over me, and I went in to use the restroom, and I had the phone on me nearby, hoping and crossing my fingers that I don't come across, obviously, someone that is mentally disturbed and is suffering from gender dysphoria, but that wouldn't want to turn on me. So how are we as parents supposed to think that it's safe to send in our daughters to a public restroom? I will never again send my daughter to a public restroom. And so I just want to say to this, where are all the feminists? How have you stayed quiet through something like this? You're so proud of being the first female-led legislature in the country, but you're allowing something like this to happen to women. This is the definition of hypocrisy. Please take this into account. Tap into your conscience, into your moral compass. Do not betray women with these bills that you're willing to pass. Thank you.